A child is born with two faces, so your parents decide. Tress Johnson, locally known as Boy with Two Faces or the Miracle Boy, recently celebrated his 18th birthday, defying all odds after being given no chances of survival by doctors. Tress, who recently turned 18, was born with craniofacial duplication, an extremely rare disorder which resulted in a duplication of his face. Due to the rare genetic disorder, the doctors gave his parents one of the most heartbreaking news parents could receive: slim to none chances of survival. However, Tress embodied and optimized the age-old adage of where there is a will, there is certainly a way. The Miracle Boy, who was given no chances to survive, recently turned into an 18-year-old man. Tress's journey has not been easy, as anyone would assume. To reshape his skull and close his cleft, he had to undergo multiple major surgeries. Further, from his early age, he used to get seizures. However, with the help of cannabis oil and his own will, these seizures have dropped from 400 to 40 a day. In an interview, his parent Brandy was quoted saying, "Doctors weren't going to sustain Tress and planned to let him pass if my husband hadn't fought for him. Once I found out he was here and still alive, that was all that mattered to us. We were always in it for the long haul." The world is beautiful and equally heartbreaking. Children across the world often fell victims of horrific disorders and diseases. However, in a heartwarming report, Tress Johnson, a boy born with two faces, recently celebrated his 18th birthday. What makes Tress's story so fascinating is he was given no chances by the doctors to be able to survive. Tress was born with craniofacial duplication, an extremely rare disorder which is a highly unusual form of conjoined twins. Due to the disorder, he was born with two sets of nostrils, a large cleft, a large head. Further, he also suffered from cognitive delays and dealt with hundreds of seizures a day. To give perspective on how rare the disorder is, there have only been 36 documented cases. When Tress was born, he was given as many as 14 different diagnoses, each grimmer than the others, before the doctors realized what he suffered from. When he was hospitalized, Tress's mom claimed that the doctors had planned to let him pass. However, both the parents fought with the doctors, who were of the opinion that Tress won't survive with the disorder. Since then, Tress has undergone numerous operations to close the cleft and efforts to reshape his skull to help relieve pressure on his brain. Despite this, he has intractable epilepsy, meaning he suffered from more than 400 seizures a day, and after exhausting all medical options, his mother now treats him with cannabis oil. 4 years ago, we were told there was nothing more doctors could do for him, Brandy said. "I did a lot of research. In the first week using cannabidiol, his seizures went down to under 40 a day. In over 2 years, he's had over a 90% reduction in seizures. He's cognitively improving and his size more than doubled. He was under 40 pounds and now is pushing 34. He's constantly growing stronger and smarter. Using cannabis oil is the best decision I ever made, though it has also been one of the hardest." Tress reaching the age of 13 is a huge deal. It's surreal knowing he's made it past this far. The past 13 years have been nothing but a fight for survival. I lost count of the amount of times we were told he wouldn't make it, but here he is today, a teenager. We now ignore their predictions and just focus on one day at a time. There's not a lot known about the condition. Most cases have duplication of facial features, some with 4 eyes, 2 noses and mouths, but many are stillborn. He's developmentally delayed because he assists in his brain. Mentally, he's the age of an infant, but he's progressively improving in all areas. Mobility-wise, we were told he would never walk, but that doesn't stop him from trying and scooting around on his butt. So many people that see what happened to our son think of it as a tragedy. But before, I thought my son was going to die, yet he's still with us today. To me, that's all that matters. The family have received a range of hurtful comments about their son, but instead of hiding away, they combat the offensive ignorance with education and awareness raising. "I've heard every comment you can imagine over the years, from kill it, put him down, to being called selfish for keeping him alive," Brandy said. "After so many years, I've just had to swallow my pride, try to stay calm and explain my son's condition to them." The family say they have struggled to find help for Tress and claim that due to the rarity of his condition, many doctors see him as a research project. "It's been hard for us to find a doctor who will treat my son as a person and not a case study. Many have offered to work with us, but not with my son's best interests at heart. One offered us a miracle surgery to make him look normal, but I don't care about how he looks. What's important is he's alive and comfortable." In her interview, Tress's mom Brandy was quoted saying, "Doctors weren't going to sustain Tress and planned to let him pass if my husband hadn't fought for him. Once I found out he was here and still alive, that was all that mattered to us. We were always in it for the long haul." Over the course of years, Tress has gone several surgeries, including surgeries that were done to close the cleft and some focused to reshape his skull so his brain would be relieved of high pressure, which used to cause him hundreds of seizures a day. We wish Tress the happiest 18th birthday and more power to his parents, who are by his side through the rough but equally rewarding journey. Another hard journey. Australian Renee Young gave birth to a baby with a rare pathology, two faces. The fact that she's carrying a child with two faces and a double brain, the woman learned long before birth. Doctors advised her to terminate the pregnancy, but Renee and her husband Simon Howie were determined. Renee Young and Simon Howie, the parents of conjoined twins Hope and Faith. 19 days was all it took. A birth, a life of hope and faith, a death, and it all started with a phone call. There's Renee Young and Simon Howie. Their story was extraordinary. So extraordinary and unbelievable that when I hung up after speaking with them, I had to call them back again to confirm what I'd just been told. We're having a baby with two faces. It was a Friday afternoon in January. Renee told me she was 17 weeks pregnant with conjoined twins. Her babies had one body, two arms, two legs, one heart, and one head with two completely duplicated faces and two separate brains. Within minutes, I hit Google. There were just 35 cases of craniofacial duplication ever recorded, and none were alive today. The last known birth was in India in 2008, a little girl named Lolly dying when she was 2 months old. This was a 1 in 20 million pregnancy. Renee and Simon are your typical Aussie battlers. They live in social housing with their 7 children. There's no money for family holidays, a flash car, or private schools. I'm not a mother, I'm not an auntie, I don't have a lot of friends with kids, but it's my job to think about a story from every angle. So naturally I thought, why are they bringing this child into the world? I asked them. They said if they had 1 hour, 1 day, 1 week, or 1 year with their babies, that would be enough for them. Those babies would know love, and I believed them. Renee told me her obstetrician's stern advice was to abort, and because the babies were over the 3-month mark, he would induce labor and she'd give birth to them stillborn. Just imagine, this mom was forced to choose between giving birth to her babies dead or alive. How could I do that to my precious babies? How can I not give them a chance? Simon made the point that the twins essentially had a deformity that was no different to any other disabled child. Would that be a fair enough reason to terminate? The couple was adamant they wanted to share their story with the world because they believed that people need to know that these things do happen. After we broadcast Tracy Grimshaw's first interview with Renee and Simon, it made headlines around the world. Of course, we knew it would get people talking, but not like this. They're the scum of the earth. Those parents should be shot. I hope those babies die. Renee and Simon took it all in their stride. They reminded me that haters will be haters, and they knew they'd made the right decision. Another phone call, Thursday afternoon, May 8th. This time it was Simon. Renee's waters have broken. The babies are coming 2 months early. I instantly felt sick in my stomach, worried that this would end badly. I spent hours outside the delivery room, hoping that Simon would walk out with good news, and he did. Against all odds, the baby girls were born breathing on their own, and so they were appropriately named Hope and Faith. Tracy, the camera team, and I were invited to meet the girls when they were just 1 day old. We were all nervous. Our sound recorder said he wasn't sure if he could handle seeing them. But it's funny, looking at Hope and Faith was just like looking at any newborns. It was hard to look away. They were mesmerizing. It was almost unreal. It was as if someone had placed a mirror along their face and I was looking at a reflection. I will never forget it. With every move, every cry, and every breath, there was hope and faith until one last phone call on day 19. It was Simon saying the girls have died. As you hear this, there are 2 people out there nursing broken hearts for the entire world to see. Those 2 people couldn't have loved those 2 babies any more than they did. People call Renee and Simon selfish for having the babies when they knew their chances of survival were slim. But to me, this was the ultimate act of selflessness. Renee and Simon brought hope and faith into the world to give them a chance, to give them love. In 19 days, I've seen the very best and the worst of humankind, and I've learned just how easily we can judge, how viciously we can hate, and how unconditionally we can love.